Six people died, burned alive in their own home in the early hours of an April morning. Two men were convicted of ordering it. 20 years later, both convictions were thrown out. Not reduced, not commuted, thrown out. This is the Glasgow Ice Cream Wars, and the name makes it sound like a joke. It wasn't. By the early 1980s, Glasgow's East End was struggling. Unemployment, disconnected housing schemes, communities that felt and were left behind. And into that gap came the ice cream vans. Not just for ice cream. The vans became mobile shops, legitimate goods, cigarettes, bread, groceries, and alongside those, things that weren't legitimate at all. Stolen goods, in some cases, drugs. A route was a territory. A territory was income. So rival operators started fighting over them. Tyre slashing, smashed windscreens, vans rammed off the road, shots fired. The local press named it the Ice Cream Wars. The name stuck, and it turned something violent into something almost absurd. At the centre of it, according to police, was a man named Thomas Campbell, known as TC, convicted criminal, known facing the scheme, accused of controlling a significant stretch of turf. The police were watching him. At around 2:30 in the morning on the 16th of April 1984, a fire broke out at 29 Bankend Street, Ricasey. The flat belonged to the Doyle family. 6 of them died. Andrew Doyle, 19 years old, known locally as Fat Boy. His brother James, his sister Christine, Christine's husband Andrew, their infant son, and Andrew Doyle Sr., the father. The fire was deliberate. Someone had poured an accelerant through the letterbox and lit it. Andrew Doyle, Fat Boy, drove an ice cream van. He had been refusing to give ground on his route. That became the theory. The ice cream wars had crossed a line. This wasn't a turf scuffle. This was murder. Here's where it gets complicated. And I want you to pay attention to this, because the speed of what happened next should give you pause. Within weeks of the fire, T.C. Campbell and a man named Joe Steele were arrested. The spine of the prosecution's case rested on one witness, a man called William Love. Love claimed Campbell had spoken in front of him, said he'd only wanted the Doyle flat frightened, not burned. That the fire was meant to be a warning, not a massacre. One account, one witness. That became the foundation. Campbell and Steele denied it entirely, said they had nothing to do with the fire, knew nothing about it. In 1984, both were convicted of 6 counts of murder. Sentenced to life. The verdict was applauded. Glasgow had its killer. Or so it seemed. Campbell and Steele never accepted the verdict. Not for a day. In 1993, they escaped from prison. Separately, Joe Steele chained himself to the gates of Buckingham Palace. Campbell went straight to the press. They weren't trying to disappear. They were trying to be heard. Both were recaptured. Both returned to prison. But the questions didn't go away. Journalists started digging. Legal campaigners started pushing. And William Love, the man whose testimony had put 2 men away for life, had begun to quietly revise his story. Not all at once, not cleanly, but the thread had been pulled. Before we get to what finally unravelled this case, if you're new here, Midnight Casefiles strips stories down to the evidence. No spin, no filler, just the case file. Subscribe if that's what you're looking for. We'll get right back to it. In 2004, 20 years after the fire on Bankend Street, the Scottish Court of Criminal Appeal quashed both convictions. The grounds were serious. William Love admitted that his account of Campbell's confession had been false. He had fabricated it, or been guided to fabricate it. The exact shape of that pressure remains contested. There were also deep concerns about the original investigation. The Serious Crime Squad, the unit that had led it, was later abolished entirely, following multiple allegations of evidence manipulation and misconduct across different cases. I want to be precise about what this means. 2 men served 20 years in prison. For 6 murders, the key witness admitted he had lied, and no one else had ever been charged with the deaths of the Doyle family. As of today, the case is officially unsolved. The person or people who killed Andrew Doyle, his family, and a child in that flat have never faced justice. Not then, not now. T.C. Campbell died in 2019. After his release, he spent years trying to understand what had happened to him and why. He never got a clean answer. Joe Steele continued campaigning on miscarriage of justice cases long after his own was resolved. The Glasgow Ice Cream Wars became shorthand for something, for the way a name can flatten a tragedy, for the way a headline can decide what a story means before anyone has read it. It meant territorial gangsters, a funny-sounding conflict. It meant 6 people burned alive in a tenement never fully had their story told. It meant 2 men, whatever their guilt or innocence, became the answer Glasgow needed, and the system provided them. What actually happened on Bankend Street in the early hours of that April morning? The case file is still open, and that is the thing that should haunt us. Thanks for watching.